Welcome to the Get Real Podcast, your high-octane boost of full-on reality therapy for personal, business, and investing success with your host, Ron Phillips, because somebody's got to tell it like it is.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Get Real Podcast. Ron Phillips here and Heather Marchant on location.
On location. I'm a reporter. This is very exciting.
It really is. In the RV again. Those of you who have followed the show for a while knows that we've done several on location podcasts with Heather. So
it's true.
Not new.
Yep. Been in a national park, so cell phone service was a little rough. So we're recording this a little late. Hopefully our people can turn this around and get it up on time. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean, we've been trying to do these a little bit more, a little bit less in advance because of the market conditions, everybody's concerned, and so we want them to be timely. This one will be really timely since, we're late getting it to our podcast, folks. A whole bunch of inside baseball for everybody today. But big news, as we said last week, Heather, they did raise interest rates.
Oh, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
They did raise interest rates this week.
Yes.
Although, as anyone who's been trying to buy properties knows, interest rates actually went down just a scotch.
Which is so, I mean, I think I texted you and said, what in the world? Like, how does that work? We're raising rates and they're going down. You're welcome. This
is one of those news versus noise things that, I should have been paying more attention to, because I called a couple of my lender friends and I'm like, hey, what the heck, man?
Yeah.
I mean, in a good way, what the heck? And they're like, oh, dude, look, this has been baked in for like a month. I said, what do you, I mean, and I know this, they do this all. I mean, this is not the first time this has been done, right? They've already priced, this in. So the banks have already priced this in. And so they're like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they come down. And of course they did come down. And anyway, we're going to link a very, detailed article about why this is. We're not going to cover all of this stuff today, but we just wanted to break it down into its fundamental basic form, which is the cake was baked already. Mm-hmm. And so it didn't hit that hard. So we've got a stay of execution on rates, which is a good thing.
Yeah. How long do you think? That's the one piece I haven't, because I've been off the grid.
They're going to keep raising rates. They have to. So, I mean, I don't know when the next one is going to come, but it will come, and it'll probably be another 75 to 100 basis points. So count on it. They're going to keep going up, which means rates are going to go up. They're just going to go up over time. Maybe they'll bake this in too before the next one as well. Right. But if you want a deep dive explanation, a little bit deeper dive explanation, we're going to link an article that explains it in the show notes. So we really did want to kind of go over like news versus noise, because anybody can get caught up into it. I actually really love when people send me articles and they're like, see, prices are really, whatever the article is.
Yeah.
And then if you read the article, and they're usually quoting percentages of increase. And Heather, you know how this goes. If I increase 15%, but the number was a small number, it's not that big of a change, right? Yeah. You can manipulate. So it's funny because I was watching a clip yesterday, and it was a political thing. It had nothing to do with real estate, but they were giving numbers. So this number, and then the last one was a percentage. And so they just they glossed over it, but the last one was a percentage instead of an actual number. So if you actually look up the stat, well, it's no wonder they did the percentage, because it sounds worse than the number, because the number really wasn't that bad.
Wow, yeah. I mean, that's no surprise, I don't think, to anybody, but I think just remembering that, because sometimes it's really easy to get caught up in the hype,
Well,
and this,
and people just read headlines.
yeah, yeah.
So I
Instead
saw
of,
this one yesterday. I just sent this over to Heather. This is hysterical. And like hysterical funny, but also hysterical.
yeah,
The
home
headline.
prices. Yeah, I'll read the headline. Home prices are being slashed. That's my favorite, I think, is the slashed. Slashed
I don't know
in
what
the
the definition of slashed is, but they're not being slashed anywhere.
yeah,
They're being reduced. That would be a better word. But now reduced, that's not near as hyperbolic as
yeah,
slashed. Home prices are
exactly.
being slashed in these 10 cities. And it's 10 cities. And
Yeah.
guess what? Guess what? If y'all were on with us right now and I said, hey, where do you suppose these 10 cities are? I bet we'd name half of them just from people guessing which cities, right? And then not only which cities, but I bet we could guess the states of where these are, right? This
Yeah.
is not okay. So I mean, we've been saying on here for months that there are certain areas of the country that are going to see price reductions.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if slash is the right word, but definitely price reductions. Okay. And one of them in particular we've been talking about, which is Boise.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think we talked about it last week.
it's mad up there. It has been madness up there. Wait, I think it was like a year ago we did I think we did a podcast on some fourplexes.
Yeah, that's right.
Remember we had people who were like, I mean, they were selling at 6 something. We sold them at 200 and something. They were selling at 600 something. And we were like, what in the heck is going on up here?
Yeah.
Then they went up to 7 something. And we were like, what? Then they
Yeah.
went to 8. So I was like, what is going on in Boise? What is going on in Boise? So look, markets that have been wildly overpriced for quite a while should and will see a price reduction. They're going to. They have to. So it's no surprise that Boise is on this list.
Yeah, at all. I was surprised by a couple of them, though, that have just been not on my radar. Anchorage, Alaska. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
That made the
I'm
top
like,
10?
wait, they have real estate up there?
I know, what?
No
And
offense
then,
to anybody listening in Alaska. We know you live
it's
in
true.
houses.
And it's beautiful, I'm sure. And Austin, Texas. I think those were the two that surprised me a little bit. But
Yeah, see, Austin didn't surprise me at all.
really,
Yeah, not at all. That place has been out of control for quite a while.
I haven't really followed it.
Reno, Nevada, that didn't surprise me either. So look, there's hundreds of cities and 10, and I'm not saying that's all, but I mean metropolitan statistical areas where they actually keep data. There's hundreds of them.
Yeah.
And this article headline, home prices are being slashed in these 10 cities, as if the entire country is now on the precipice of some major collapse, which I've said all along. I don't know exactly what's going to happen with this market. I don't think anybody really does. There's a bunch of people who are speculating that they know, but they really don't know.
Yeah.
Here's what we do know nationally, which of course is junk, but this is what we do know nationally. There's more inventory on the market now than there was. Okay, not a shocker. There's a bunch of people who think that they're missing the top of the market. They're listing their houses and trying to sell them. That's not a shocker at all. Houses are sitting on the market longer than they were. Also, not a shocker. But also not the end of the world, since that's what happens in a normal market all the time.
Yeah, I kind of find it refreshing. It was tiring to keep up with how fast things were moving.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not suggesting that the real estate market isn't going to correct a little bit. It might just level out, and it actually might, in certain markets, continue to go up because we still don't have enough supply. Now, Heather, we talked about this before too. That's not the only lever, right? Supply demand is not the only thing in the market.
Well, I think one thing that I was working on this week for a presentation this coming week, building some slides and putting data together, and I was reminded that 4 of the last 6 recessions, home prices appreciated through that recession. So I think that from my perspective, the last recession I remember as an adult, I mean, I'm 41. The last recession I remember was really the only recession I remember with real estate, right? And that it like was so crazy in 2008. And that's the one that I really remember. And I think that's the case for a lot of Americans, that's kind of what we equate a recession to, is what happened in 2008. And it's just totally different. And so if we look at, I have in front of me, so 1980, 1981, 1991, 2001, 2007, and 2020 as the last 6 major recessions. And only 2 of them, it was affected real estate pretty negatively. So I think it doesn't always have to mean that they go hand in hand, which I just learned.
Only one of them was actually, it was caused by
real
estate.
That's right.
I mean, not entirely, but huge, massive part of it was caused by real estate. And we don't have, like, we've been over this too. We don't have the same scenario this time. This is not the same thing. Now, there's a whole lot of outside forces that could affect real estate prices, but we don't have enough properties either for rent or for homeowners. Since we don't, I think that's going to help us maintain a little bit of stability with the pricing. In any case, it's going to be good for renting, for landlords, right? I mean, that's the way things are. There's not enough properties, rents aren't dropping, and for the people who are looking for properties and can't find them, or are now not looking anymore and are not putting their properties on the market, once things kind of stabilize into a normal market cycle, like normal amount of houses on the market, normal time for listings, I think we're going to see that rents stabilize and then start to go on a normal trajectory up instead of this psychotic thing that's been happening, right?
Yeah. Feel like no 2 days are the same with respect to the interest rates and what's happening. We have to get updates from lenders multiple times a week. It's insane. So I think one thing that also has been really interesting for me is looking at why we ourselves, but also our clients, why we continue to purchase real estate through the volatility, right? And seeing how that volatility impacts different people. And I think a lot of it is that news versus noise, Ron, that you were talking about, that, moving forward and purchasing real estate based on the fundamentals of what real estate can do and what real estate does, and not looking at, prices are slashed, like all of, that noise that you can get. And like you said, Ron, they put percentages on $100,000 house saying that home prices drop 10%. That's $10,000, right? It's not like the end of the world versus, putting the actual number.
Yeah. And in your current example, that didn't happen. It's $1 million house that dropped.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are the ones dropping. Those are the ones dropping, and they're skewing all of the numbers, right? And I mean, if you just bought one of those fourplexes in Boise, 3 or 4 months ago for, almost $900,000, you might actually start to consider whether or not you made a horrible decision. That actually, because it didn't cash flow when you bought it. I don't know why you bought it. If you did, I'm glad you bought it from our clients and they made, $600,000 on your crappy purchase, but you didn't, if you bought one of those, you didn't buy based on good fundamentals. And since you didn't, you probably are going to lose some money. But that doesn't keep people from investing in real estate. Everybody that I know is still buying. and we're just buying on the same look. The presentation hasn't changed since I started doing it in 2000. Well, it wasn't 2005. I started selling things in 2005, but 2007 when I started doing the presentations live, it's
Yeah.
the same thing. Tell
Yeah.
me where else you can get an investment that does everything that real estate does. And then if somebody can produce it and it's legit, I will add it to my repertoire. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I have not found anything that produces the same kind of returns, even during volatile markets.
Yeah. I think we should go over this one more time because I know we've covered this before, but I've had multiple clients reach out to me and say, please don't just cover something once and assume that we get it and that it's fully digested. I mean, I relearn stuff all the time. I'm sure you do too, Ron, like you just
Yep.
remember what you knew. So you own 100% of it, right? You own the entire thing. You're not having a partner usually, right? That's out of your control or can go rogue or anything like that. You own 100% of the
Yeah. And
asset.
compare that to a stock where you own a
Yeah.
microcosm of the company
Yeah.
and you have zero control.
Yes. Because you personally can affect the value of the stock, which that's crazy. I mean, you can raise rents, you can upgrade a kitchen or whatever and bring up the value of what you own. And you have that's the part of the stock market that you have zero control over, right?
Nope. You can't control their mouths. You can't control anything that they do. And then, I mean, the CEO can tank a stock just by saying something stupid.
Mhm.
Your houses don't say anything stupid. So
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about it.
It's true. And then it provides a high dividend, right? Real estate, if we're comparing it to stock, that you
Yeah, I
have
mean,
that cash flow.
Heather, do it like let's do an average. Let's do a one that's not even that great. How about a 6% cash on cash return? 6%.
It's true.
Show me a stock that produces a 6% dividend, please. Show me one. And then in addition to that, it has some kind of a growth component to it as well.
Yeah.
You can't show me one, but if you could, you're still not going to get the rest of what real estate can do, right?
It's true. I feel like if people found that stock, they'd be losing their minds, right? Like,
No one would believe it.
I know. And then one of my favorites, it can be you can purchase the stock on payments over 30 years at a fixed interest rate. Like, oh yeah, I want to buy that stock, but I can't afford all of it, so I'm just going to finance it.
Yeah. And then not only that, but you can go hire someone to live in your stock and pay for it for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and then there's the tax advantage, right? So let's just go over these again. You have 100% control. You own 100% of it. It produces a high dividend or cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time providing a high appreciation or capital gain, right? Along with tax reduction that you can finance on incredible terms, fixed payments for 30 years that someone else pays for you on your behalf. Now, if that stock existed, no one would buy it because it's too good to be true.
Yeah.
And yet that's exactly what rental real estate does. And so while everyone out there is freaking out and losing their minds,
Mm-hmm.
smart people are still investing. And I mean, I think I said this the other day, but I'm getting ready to go under contract on a property that that I'm buying with a partner. And one of my buddies said something. I'm looking for the actual quote. Here it is. The brave will be rewarded this quarter. Time to buy.
Yeah. I love that.
And I agree with that because the time value of money, if you let your money just sit and do nothing, you're losing money to inflation. I mean, big time right now, big time. And I don't think that train's ending anytime soon.
Yeah.
So,
Agreed.
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 And by the way, Big
Go.
news this last week. I don't know if you heard this or not, Heather.
I don't know.
You probably didn't because you were in the boondocks. We are not in a recession. And the definition of a recession has changed.
Oh,
It is no longer 2 consecutive quarters of GDP decline. It's now a plethora of different things, which they can change anytime they want to state whether or not we're in or we're not in a recession. And so the good news is, and for everybody out there, the good news, if you haven't heard it, the good news is we're not in a recession.
Wow.
In spite of the fact that the definition of a recession has been the same for as long as I've been alive, but now we've changed the definition. And this, folks, this is politics. This is how the game is played. I'd like to also I'm going to go out on a limb right now, and I'm going to say that the GDP that was still crappy, still negative, is yet worse than they've reported. And then in the dark of night, here in the next few weeks, the real number will come out. It will be far worse, and they'll never state it.
Wow.
And they'll continue to bang the drum that we are not in a recession when we clearly are in a recession.
That wow.
Yep.
It's like saying we're not really dating. Let's redefine the definition of dating in the middle.
Here's the thing that I really don't understand since I've gone a little political. Biden was the vice president during Obama's term when they would just make up the number and then revise it down later. So either the GDP was so bad that they couldn't make it up and make it positive and then revise it down later, or they're just that incompetent at being politicians that they can't lie as sophisticatedly as the last administration. Either way, not good.
Yeah, exactly.
Either way, not good. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mind blowing.
That has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I
thought
it was funny. News versus noise.
Yes.
It does apply.
Great. It does apply. It's a great example when you're changing the definition of something. Wow, that's crazy. I was also working on, because as I came back online yesterday, working on some math. I geek out on the math in our pro formas and understanding the numbers and how quickly the time velocity of money and all of those things. I was loving it, and also had other things to do, so hating it. But anyway, I was going through this and I realized in the math that I was doing that I hadn't added in the other 3 rates of return in owning real estate. So I had done only cash flow, and I had not added in your principal reduction, which is the tenant paying down the mortgage, your depreciation and your appreciation. I hadn't added into my projection and how fast a client could start with 3 properties and grow their portfolio in 2 years, right? So this is the math I was working on. And I was not surprising, but also super cool that the client could purchase 1 more additional property and increase their cash flow by adding in what seemed like pretty minor numbers. Like the depreciation was like, I don't know, $150 a month, like nothing earth shattering. But I went, man, adding that in and then adding in a little bit of principal reduction and appreciation over 5 years. I projected over 5 years for those, but still just adding in depreciation, they purchased another property in those 2 years. So I think it might be helpful to kind of go through a property run and kind of show all of those little rates of return and kind of break down a property and why it still works. I mean, the numbers work really well to help people be able to grow their wealth.
Yeah. I mean, why it still works with crazy interest rates, these quote crazy interest rates that are still historically low. Yeah, let's go over one. This is I'm gonna round the numbers off because I don't like all the numbers that are on this, but let's use a $400,000 property with $100,000 down payment. Okay. So that's 25% down for anybody out there who didn't know. That's what that is. And after all expenses, including the crazy mortgage payment, where we got this insane high interest rate. Even after all of that, property cash flow is almost $700 a month. Okay. So after you pay the management company and the HOA and everybody gets paid $700 a month cash flow. Okay.
Mhm.
Which is a decent cash on cash return. It's 8%. Okay. Now, again, I'll go back to the original example. Where else can you get an 8% dividend on your money?
Yeah.
I don't know any other investment that gives you that, but there it is. Now, in addition to that, Heather, there's someone living in the property paying your mortgage. And this is one that's overlooked a lot, but this is actually pretty big. This is not just a little insignificant thing. Someone is paying down principal, creating equity for you every single month.
Mm-hmm.
That works out to a little over a 4% return. Okay.
And I think we should go over too that if the market does go down, right? So say you bought this house at 400, the tenant is paying down your mortgage, giving you equity. What if you lose a little bit of value in this property? You have equity in there that wasn't even paid for by you, which is pretty cool.
It's a beautiful thing, and the market will recover anyway.
Yeah.
So just hold on to it while you have to have your measly little 8% return. And your measly little 4% return, and then the measly little tax break you're going to get that's going to give you almost 3%. Those three things right there, those just continue to happen, right?
Yeah.
Throw appreciation completely out the window because, as Heather said, maybe it goes down in value.
Mm-hmm.
But those three things are going to happen. So that's, what is that? 16%?
Yeah, close to.
I mean, folks, I'm not sure where else you're getting 16%, consistently getting 16%. But that's what this is. So you're getting about $8,300 a year in cash flow. You're getting about $4,200 a year in principal reduction, in equity gain from somebody paying down your principal. And you're getting a $2,800 tax break. And that's if you don't accelerate the depreciation. That's straight line depreciation.
Yeah.
If you
and
accelerate it, it's even better.
Yeah. And on this particular property, you have two tenants. So if, say you have a vacancy, because you'll have, there's always things that can go wrong in real estate too. So say you have a vacancy, you should have one tenant on the other side still paying. So covering most of your expenses in owning the property, right? A good chunk of them at least. So that way you don't have to have that as a stressor, which is great. And then this particular property we're talking about built in 2014. So it's not an older property that you're going to have potentially a lot of expenses on. You could still have expenses on a property built in 2014 for maintenance, but wouldn't be as high as a property built in 1950. So
yeah, I mean, so that's the reason people buy them. It's because when you buy a stock, let's say the stock market actually is down sufficient that that now is the time to buy, and be bullish, and the market's going to recover, and it's going to you're going to make a ton of money. That may happen, but you're only going to make one type of money. There's only one type of return there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a capital gain. That's it. It's either going to go up or it's going to go down. And that's why people are so concerned when the market gets volatile. Well, when the real estate market gets volatile, the thing that's going up and that's going down is the value of the home or the value of the property, which is not really, now I'm speaking about non-commercial properties right now. Okay. So 1 to 4 family units. It's not relevant. Fannie Mae doesn't give a crap.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't care unless you don't make her payments. Okay.
Yep.
Doesn't care. Guess what? The house doesn't care. Doesn't get its feelings hurt. Nobody knows the difference. Nothing changes. So your cash flow doesn't change. Your principal reduction doesn't change. Your tax reduction doesn't change, unless, of course, the politicians change it. But anyway, those three things don't change. The only thing that changes is appreciation, is the gain, which is the only thing when you're investing in the stock market that you're going to get anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're getting 3 additional returns. Those returns are what makes real estate so sexy, because when you add all of them up over time, they kick the pants off of anything else I've seen.
And even when you have big expenses and issues like that, I helped a client with a portfolio this week. He said, "Man, Heather, I've had to put a deck on the back of a house, and I've had some capital expenditures too, which you can write off on your taxes." But we did a deeper dive and looked at his property values, and I said, "Man, you have some great gains on 2 of your 6 properties. Well, 3 of your 6 properties, but 2 were crazy good." And I said, "Why don't we liquidate these and sell them?" And because we would do that regardless of how his whole portfolio was performing. So it's just magic that there's 4 different ways to make money. That you can have gains that help offset losses, and it's not just cash flow as your only source of income, which is super cool.
So let's just make sure that when we're out there reading headlines, we're reading stories, and let's make sure that we're cutting through the noise, getting to what's real.
Mm-hmm.
And let's remember that real estate is not national as much as they like to report that it is. It is local. The markets you should be investing in right now are the safe, boring, slow ones, not the crazy, psychotic ones that make tons and tons of money in a short amount of time through appreciation. There will be a day for that. It is not today, and it hasn't been that for several years. I mean, our investors, I think we said this earlier, but our investors haven't been buying in Boise for years.
Yeah.
Years. Because
selling.
the numbers haven't worked.
Yeah.
They don't work there. And so since they don't work, we moved on. But we'll be back. I mean, if Boise falls apart, if it actually does slash at some point here, we'll be back.
You betcha.
We'll be back. We'll do it all over again. And then what happens, guys, the way that this cycle works is that we move into those crazy markets when they fall apart to the point where the numbers make sense. And then we go buy up everything we can buy up in there. And then we just wait, because it's going to go crazy again. And then when it goes crazy again, the prices go way up, you sell, and you move into the Midwest, into the Mid-South, into the Southeast, where it's boring and it doesn't do that, because there's safety there. That's what you do. It's super easy. This doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be scary. No one needs to be concerned about interest rates. And look, if you've got a property that you want to buy and it's out a little ways, just buy a rate lock extension. They're not that expensive. And if you can get rate lock extensions up to a year. So let's not freak out and lose our sanity over something that's really pretty normal.
Yeah, agreed. That was a great synopsis. I think it's about not being informed and not being just living in fear, like we've been talking about for like a month.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's so much of it out there. Everybody's scared to death. I am pretty excited. I mean, if things completely fall apart, great.
Yep.
If things kind of marginally fall apart, great. If prices continue to go up, fantastic. Don't care. I don't care. I don't care, because I'm going to make money in any one of those conditions. It doesn't make any. I mean, if it all falls apart, that just means we're all going to make more money. Fantastic. But if it doesn't,
explain why, right? So I think I get what you're saying, and it's so great. But I think if we break it down for a second, because if it all falls apart, there's great deals, right? Is that what you're meaning? That we can have.
Yeah. So let's say Boise loses 50% like it did last time again. Maybe it was only 40%, but it went down dramatically, right? And then we went back in there. That's why we got those fourplexes for $265,000. I think is what we sold them for.
It is. Good job.
I mean, we're not going to go in and buy them at $850. Numbers don't work. But if everything falls apart, we can go in there and get these fantastic deals in these locations that do run up really, really fast. Well, then we're all going to make more money, right? Unless you're the guy that bought at $850, and then you're going to lose your butt, right?
Yes.
And I feel
Yes.
bad that you did, but somebody should have told you, or you should have asked some questions. I mean,
Yeah.
you made a really, really horrible investment. And I feel bad that you did, but I don't feel bad enough that you did to not come back and buy it from the bank at 260. I don't feel that bad. So I understand that people are going to lose their houses if that happens. And I'm not hoping it happens. I'm just saying, if it does, I am going to go buy assets, which is what everyone else should be doing. But what's actually going to happen in actuality, what happened last time is everybody got scared to death. And I couldn't talk people into buying houses for $40,000 that were brand new, never been lived in Florida. So we went down to the auction. We were buying houses on the courthouse steps that no one had ever lived in, ready to roll out the door. And we were buying them for $30,000 to $70,000, and I couldn't get a soul one to buy them
because they were afraid. Yep.
Yeah, because Florida is a horrible market. It fell apart. It's the worst thing ever. Well, all that's true, but that's why you buy them then, not when they're $350,000, which is what they were before.
Yep.
So there, you have to be completely counterintuitive on investing. If everything falls apart, that is the time to buy. The difference is, if nothing falls apart, it's still the time to buy.
Yes.
And if things still go up, it's still the time to buy. You're just going to make varying degrees of return. And what Heather and I just went over is an okay return.
Yep.
It's still fantastic. It's 16%. That's not bad. And that's without appreciation. Okay. What I'm saying is, if things completely fall apart and we can go get those fourplexes for 260 again, the returns are going to be out of control good.
Yeah. Yep.
Like once in a lifetime kind of good. If that happens, we'll let you know. We'll all go buy together. It'll be fantastic. It'll be a fun party.
It'll be a big party. Yeah. I think I loved that, Ron, because I think it's super helpful when people aren't in the space to understand that you can make money in any of those markets. If it changes slightly, you're still going to do great. And if it goes up, I mean, I just ran numbers for a client who bought in Florida, Ron. Man, I'm trying to think how many years ago. I want to say probably 4 or so years ago, and has literally doubled her money because Florida surprised all of us with the pandemic, and tons of people moved to Florida. So no longer is it just a tourism state that we had really looked at, not just, but mostly, right? The real estate.
I mean, people are sick of communist states. They're going to move and go somewhere where they actually, don't have to live. Don't have to live that way. I just want everybody to understand that making money has to happen all the time, right? So we also did a podcast, it might have been a long time ago actually, where we went back and bought a property with historicals, and we did it at the exact wrong time. And then the other, like A, bought at the wrong time, top of the market, followed it all the way down. And investor B put his money in the bank and didn't do anything until the bottom of the market and then bought. And they really weren't that different.
Yeah.
Really weren't that different. And the reason is because time, and that didn't even have inflation eating you alive. I mean, if we put inflation in that example, I think it would be markedly different, because you're losing 15 to 18% every single year right now. It's incredible.
I'll link that in the show notes so that if people want to watch that, because it is an older one, and I don't think it's a full podcast. So I'll link that because I just pulled it up the other day. So that way you guys can go and look at that.
Well, listen, everybody, we want to make sure that you are staying informed, that we're keeping you abreast of what's going on, but only what's actually going on, and not what is the hype that the media and the politicians want to sell you. And so based on all of that, until next time, get out there and make something happen.
That's right. Thanks, guys.
This has been the Get Real Podcast. To subscribe and for more information, including a list of all episodes, go to getrealestatesuccess.com.